From WHYY and Billy Penn, it is Hittin season. Hey there, podcast pals. I'm John Stolnis from The Good Fight and Billy Penn. You can follow me on X and Blue Sky at John Stolnis. Coming up, we are recording right after the Phillies' first game against the Mets at Citi Field in New York. Phillies fall, 5-4. It doesn't really matter. The Phillies were dead for most of the game here on Monday night. Mounted a late charge in the ninth inning, scored 4 runs in the ninth inning to make it a ball game, but some terrible at-bats as the tying run by the two $300 million men. We'll get to all of that. Aaron Nola start, the bullpen, everything. We'll get to it all in the next couple of minutes. We're going to talk a little bit more about the bullpen because this is the issue du jour. Last week it was Brandon Marsh. The week before that it was Alec Bohm. This week it's the bullpen, and that's what we're going to focus most of our attention on. That's where the Phillies news cycle has us this week, and for good reason. The bullpen's been pretty terrible. We will just kind of take a quick look back at the Miami series and some of the good things against the Marlins, and some drama in Atlanta. I don't know if you guys have been following the situation with your Atlanta Braves, but it is quite a doozy. So we'll get into all that coming up here on this edition of Hittin Season. Joining me is from Saber, as we can now officially say, from Saber. We're gonna plug this thing again, Liz, that you're working on now. But Liz Roscher, of course, follow her on X and Blue Sky at Liz Roscher. Liz Roscher of Saber. Liz, again, how you doing? And remind everybody what it is you're doing with Saber right now.
Saber, I'm the editor of the 2025 edition of the Baseball Research Journal, which is a peer-reviewed journal put out by the Society of American Baseball Research. I am the editor. If you have something with stats in it or research of some kind, baseball research, and you want to have it peer-reviewed and appear in an awesome journal, which this issue will have my first letter from the editor in it, something I will have to write. Please submit it. You can hit me up on Blue Sky or Twitter to find out how.
I might write up something, Liz.
Please.
I have never written anything that's been published by Saber.
Yes, and join Saber. It is $80 a year.
Yeah,
$80 a year for full access to an enormous photo library, incredible historical documents. Lots and lots of books, and I think access to every issue of the Baseball Research Journal that's ever been put out, along with all sorts of other incredible things. Saber.org.
There you go.
Join.
Saber.org. There you go. Well, let's get to this Phillies, the start of this Phillies series against the Mets. Not a great start on Monday night as the Phillies fall 5-4. It was 5-0 heading into the ninth inning, and the Phillies had mustered only 3 hits during the course of the game. Why can't we hit Tyler McGill? Like, seriously, Tyler McGill is the most milquetoast, run-of-the-mill, right-handed starter that you're going to find. And yet, as Corey Seidman noted for NBC Sports Philadelphia, it's 4 straight years the Phillies can't figure this guy out. He has a 1.42 ERA in his career against the Phillies. They've hit 157 against him in 6 career starts, and they've only hit 1 home run against Tyler McGill in 122 plate appearances over these last 4 years. Like, there is nothing special about Tyler McGill, Liz. He doesn't throw really hard. He doesn't have any one wipeout pitch. He's not an all-star. You know, he's not somebody that you go into a series thinking, oh, how are we going to deal with Tyler McGill? Like, they've had more success with Jacob deGrom over the years than Tyler McGill when deGrom was in New York. So I don't get it. But the Phillies do. They have trouble with Tyler McGill, and really it continues more trouble against the Mets overall right now, Liz. Aaron Nola had a decent but not great start here on Monday night. 6 1/3 innings. He pitched into the 7th, so we'll give him that. But he allowed 9 base runners in 6 1/3 innings, 7 hits and 2 walks, struck out 6, allowed 4 runs. His ERA now 6.43 on the season. He did leave with just a 2-0 deficit. He handed Jose Ruiz a 2-1 with 1 out situation in the 7th, and then Jose Ruiz, who flat out stinks, allowed a 3-run home run to Francisco Lindor, Lindor's 2nd of the game, and that made it 5-0. So
he bad.
It was a bad game.
Bad.
It was a bad game, and they got 4 runs in the ninth inning with 1 out. They got a Kepler double followed by a Real Muto RBI single. They got another runner on base. Alec Boehm got a single, and then Bryson Stott goes yard off of Edwin Diaz with 1 out. I mean, and you're
Yeah.
thinking maybe we're in business. We've got Trey Turner and Bryce Harper coming up next. Both strike
Fart
out on 3
noise.
pitches. I mean, work the guy a little bit, guys.
Nah. I'm just going to swing because this looks like it might be my pitch.
I mean, did they even... the way they approached those at bats, it was as if they were playing hero ball. And this is not the reason they lost. Okay, Trey Turner and Bryce Harper striking out in the ninth inning as the tying run. It's not the reason that they lost. Kyle Schwarber had a terrible at bat with the bases loaded earlier in the game. The team mustered virtually nothing the rest of the night. If you're going to blame the offense, blame them for the previous 8 1/3 innings where they weren't able to do anything against, again, a ham and egger like Tyler McGill. And I'm sorry, that's what he is. But the way that they approached those at bats in the ninth inning were infuriating. At least make Diaz throw you some pitches. You've got, if you're Trey Turner, you've got Harper and Schwarber hitting behind you. Put the ball in play, man. Put it in play somewhere. Give yourself a chance. And Bryce Harper went up there thinking, I'm the last hope, and it didn't even look like was tracking the ball. No. The last pitch of the game bounced well in front of the plate, and he's swinging at it. He just had made up his mind. I'm swinging no matter what. It was an infuriating finish to the game.
I hated watching that. And I sort of felt like that's exactly what was going to happen too. And I hate that. Yeah. I hate feeling that way.
You knew it.
Yeah, like I knew it. Like they're going to go up there and play hero ball because, they don't want to go station to station because there's so much ground to make up. They don't want to have to, they don't want to spend more time than they think they need to. So they're going to go for it. They're just going to go for it instead of just trying to just get on base, man.
Just get on base.
Just get on base. There's no, we love home runs, but a home run there wouldn't have won the game. It would have just tied it. They just get on base and then at least forced Trey Turner to maybe think about swinging and approaching the at bat differently. Like that's called managing your teammates, and you could do that if you're Bryce Harper. You could do that if you're anybody.
Right, and just managing your emotions in the moment, And I tweeted right after the Stott home run. I was like, yeah, I could feel what was coming. I tweeted, at least the Phillies are showing a little fight here in the ninth. I'm guessing Diaz gets the next 2 guys without much problem, but they were at least spunky here. Which again, yes, I am glad that they put a little fight in at the end of the game. That they
made them call in their closer.
And that's valuable. That's valuable. That's what happened with Alvarado in the game on Saturday. That's why Alvarado wasn't available here in this game on Monday night, because the Phillies had to use him when Jordan Romano gave up all those runs and it became a 1-run game. This was a 5-run game entering the ninth inning. You don't want to use Edwin Diaz in this game. So now you're not going to be able to use Edwin Diaz in all 3 of these games. He's going to have to sit in one of these next 2 games unless you're going to pitch him back to back to back. And I don't even know if he pitched on Sunday or not. So that is a good thing. They at least got Edwin Diaz into the game. But let's talk about Aaron Nola here a little bit, Liz. And we've talked a lot about Aaron Nola. We have to talk about Aaron Nola, although I don't really know what to say.
What do you say?
Well, he's now I say he's 0-5 on the season. He has a 6.43 ERA, as I mentioned a few moments ago. He said that his record and ERA are, quote, brutal. But he says he needs to keep going out there and hoping that the velocity comes up on his fastball. I think that's what's the most worrisome here. I mean, he did dance between the raindrops in this game. He gave up 5 hard hit balls that were at least 99 miles an hour off the bat or more. Juan Soto missed a 3-run home run earlier in the game by inches off of Aaron Nola. Otherwise, this would have been a blowout by the time the 9th inning rolled around, and he just missed a 3-run home run. That, as a matter of fact, on my MLB app, they actually put up there that it was a 3-run home run because it had to get reviewed and it was overturned. That's how close it was. That's how close Aaron Nola was to giving up, to having a worse evening. But to his credit, he gave up just really he gave up the 4 runs in 7 1/3 innings, but 2 of those runs were given up by Jose Ruiz. The concern you have with Aaron Nola is the velocity. If he doesn't see an uptick in his velocity, Liz, there's not a lot of hope in him being able to be more than a number 3 or number 4 type starter this year, because the velocity is what makes the other pitches play. So it makes the two-seamer play. So it makes the curveball play. If teams can just wait out the fastball and then wail on it, it's going to be difficult for him to navigate a lineup, especially the third time through the order. And so he becomes a 5-inning pitcher, which is not who he is. He's normally a guy who goes deep and can face an order the third and maybe even sometimes the fourth time through.
Yeah, like, we need him to be more than a 5-inning pitcher. You know, regardless of whether he fits in the rotation right now, they need more than that from him. And the way that, I don't know what the exact quote was, but if it was something like he's hoping that his velocity gets better, I don't like that word. I don't like that word, hope. He's like, what, I mean, I would feel a lot better if he said, we're going to try and figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm assuming they will do that, but I mean, I guess it's a bad start, and Nola could not have felt good about himself after all of that. And so I'm going to cut him some slack there. But you got to hope that they're looking into it. They're trying to figure it out, because they need more from him, and they can't just sort of let him flail out there. They've got to figure out why his velocity is down and how to get it back up.
Right. With Jordan Romano, it was a mechanical issue. They figured that out, but it doesn't seem like there's an easy mechanical fix to get Aaron Nola's velocity back up. But this has happened before. He has had, first of all, odd year Aaron Nola for whatever reason.
Yeah.
This is it really is a bizarre thing. In even years, Aaron Nola is a totally different pitcher and a much more effective pitcher than he is in odd years. I can't, there's no rational explanation for it. It's kind of just one of those weird things, but it was in the beginning of 2017, beginning of 2019, and the beginning of 2023 when he had velocity issues, where he couldn't get the fastball up to where it normally is. And he's experiencing the same thing here in 2025. So you're right. I mean, I hope there's a mechanical issue that they can figure out. He's also struggling from the stretch quite a bit. We know that is part of his history too.
Yeah, that's always the thing for him.
He is such a fascinating pitcher. I'm really curious what his legacy is going to be when it's all said and done. Like, he's on this team for the next 6 years. He's like a 7-year deal. You're right. Right. So, I mean, he's going to be around for a long time still.
Oh.
I'm just,
we're going to be seeing so many of these guys for so long, but like Nola has been here, is going to be here his whole career. That's going to be I mean, it's going to be a fascinating relationship.
Yes.
Between him and because it's so different than any other player from this era right now. And I think ever, because he was sort of like, he was their first big hope. Right. You know, Rhys Hoskins is gone.
Right.
Still. And it's Aaron Nola is the only one who remains from sort of that big hopeful era.
Yeah, that's totally right. And it's interesting, like, he's not going to get traded at a certain point because the contract just won't allow for a trade. And I don't think the Phillies are having any thoughts about that, and I don't think they will. But, it is interesting. He probably will finish his career in Philadelphia. He will have put together certainly the most innings and most games pitched in a Phillies uniform if he plays out the rest of his contract. He'll be on the Wall of Fame. There's no doubt about the fact he's going to be a Wall of Famer. But I just wonder, and he's probably going to hold a bunch of Phillies records. He'll never pass Steve Carlton for strikeouts, but he could be top 3 because he's going to have such longevity. Top 4 all time on the Phillies franchise history list. He might pass Carlton in games pitched as a Philly, because remember, Carlton pitched for the Cardinals for the first few years of his career. When all is said and done, he's going to own some records.
He absolutely is.
It's just and he's had great years too. He's had heroic postseason moments. He's also had postseason moments where he's totally wet the bed. I mean, he's so fascinating. It's such a weird career that he's had. Such a totally bizarre, unique. We've never seen, and probably never will see, a pitching career like Aaron Nola's in Philadelphia when it's all said and done. And who knows where 2025 is going to go? I mean, I really don't know where this season is headed for him.
I feel like he couldn't have landed anywhere else but here.
That's right.
He is
That's
kind
right.
of the perfect pitcher for this fan base and sort of the quote unquote nerd community, because we're going to be discussing his legacy forever.
Forever.
Because I mean, there's like we're gonna. I mean, God, if Justin and I are still alive when we get to a like an old school continued success sort of like look back at like the 22 season, like we're gonna, or any other season, we're gonna have a lot of like big Aaron Nola moments and a lot of wow, yikes, big
Right.
Aaron Nola moments in good and bad sense. So
Yeah. Well, the other thing to talk about here, and by the way, the Phillies are now, I kind of buried the lead here, but after losing on Monday night, the Phillies are now 13-10. So even despite kind of the unevenness and the kind of haphazard play, the Phillies are 3 games over 500. They are now 3 games behind the Mets in the National League East. Not a big deal. Nothing to get worked up about just yet. But I think the larger concern here is the Mets seem to have their number right now. The Mets are kind of renting a room inside the Phillies' head. The Phillies are in their last 50 games. Let me ask you. Let me guess this for me. In their last 50 games against the Mets, how many games do you think the Phillies have won? What is their record against the Mets in the last 50 games?
I think it's somewhere. I think it's somewhere like 20-30, something
You
like
nailed
that.
it. You nailed it. 20-30 is exactly right. That is exactly right.
That's just how it felt to me. And
Yeah.
I'm amazed that that's exactly what it is.
Right. No, the Mets have been playing them tough for the last few years, and now they're pretty loaded.
Yeah.
They look like right now, Liz. I mean, they look like the better team, and you can't say that they're not after the NLDS beatdown. It really it was a kind of an interesting how it morphed as the season went along last year. When they played in London, the Phillies were clearly the better team, and then by the end of the season, the Mets had kind of moved past them now, and you kind of looked at it, was like, is it just kind of like a weird fluky postseason run that they went on, and was it real, was it not? But they make the moves during the offseason, and right now they are playing better than the Phillies. Their offense has had just as many issues, by the way, as the Phillies have, despite Lindor and Soto and everybody else. Up until like the last couple of days, their offense actually had worse numbers than the Phillies across the board. Batting average, hitting with runners in scoring position, runs, home runs, all that stuff. The Phillies offense has been performing better than the Mets offense this year, but the Mets pitching staff has been better. Certainly the bullpen has been much better than the Phillies bullpen has been. And really we've seen that, and that's where I want to go next here. The Phillies bullpen has been a major issue for this team, especially over the last couple of weeks, but really since this season began. Here you have Jose Ruiz entering the game, Liz, in the 7th inning. 2 runners on, 1 out. Man, that's your job to protect that lead. You're down 2-0. It's your job to keep that game close. I know you inherited those 2 runners, but sometimes you got to keep those guys from scoring. You got to get the 2 outs. You got to figure it out. Like if you want to be a high leverage reliever in this league, Jose Ruiz, you got to figure out a way to get those guys out. And Jose Ruiz this year has not only not been able to do that, he has made things worse pretty much every time that he's gone out there. His ERA now 6.75, and took a 2-0 game and turned it into a 5-0 game. If he doesn't give up those runs in the 7th inning, Phil's probably win this game here on Monday night. They keep it close. You give your offense a chance going into the 9th inning, down just 2 runs, to put some hits together against the Mets bullpen. Now they probably start with Edwin Diaz in the 9th inning if that's if that turns out to be the case. So maybe you don't score all the runs that you did. That being said, this bullpen, it went into the Marlins series, obviously, with Romano blown up on Saturday. You had Orion Kerkering giving up a backbreaking 3-run home run in the 8th inning on Sunday. You've just had it seems like a different guy has taken turns blowing late leads or failing
every single time.
Yeah, I mean, so what do you do here? I mean, it's Rob Thompson's hand was kind of forced on Monday. He didn't have Alvarado and he didn't have Matt Strahm because they'd pitched in 2 straight games. You kind of have to throw Jose Ruiz out there at that point.
Yeah, and that stinks. I'm trying to yeah, that stinks a whole lot. Let's see. Jose Ruiz. I'm trying to see if there were and that's that whatever Ruiz's ERA was, it was horrific. It it doesn't actually count because he allowed several runners, inherited runners, to score.
Right. One of those runs was his responsibility. So he gave up 1 run in 2/3 of an inning. I'm guessing the ERA went up a little bit.
6.75 now,
Yeah.
according to MLB. I don't know what it was coming into this game.
I can find that out, but I mean, it's yeah.
Like I can't. He must be letting. I can't imagine he must have let a bunch of inherited runners score. Like I can't imagine what his actual ERA is if you count all those inherited runners, which I know don't technically belong to him, but like it's just kind of a disaster. And I think, I don't think Thompson wanted to go near Kerkering or anything like that.
Right.
Especially after some recent, events, coughing up of leads and such. But like, then what do you go to? So instead of that, you go to Jose Ruiz?
But that's, you know what, though? When they let Carlos Estevez and Jeff Hoffman walk, it was with the idea, sure, that Romano and Kerkering would step up, but then they wanted Ruiz to step into Kerkering's role. Like they believed that Ruiz could handle more high leverage spots. That's one of the reasons why they elevated him. Coming into the game, the ERA was 6.14. So it went up from 6.14 to 6.75. But here's the key number for Jose Ruiz. Coming into the game here on Monday night, an 18% strikeout rate.
Oh, God.
Like as a reliever, that's not going to get it done.
No.
You can't survive with you need to be at least in the mid 20s, if not into the upper 20s, low 30s for your strikeout rate to be an effective high leverage late inning reliever in this league.
That's bad. I wonder. I'm starting to wonder. Like it's almost, we're still early in the season. We're still week 3, or this is started like what week 4?
Yeah, I think we're starting week 4 here.
And I have to wonder how long the Phillies let this go on.
Well, the question is, if you don't want to, and I agree, I don't want to let Jose Ruiz pitch any more high leverage situations. I'm not exactly sure what the solutions are.
That's why they paid Dave Dombrowski.
Yep.
And his giant brain, the big bucks, is to figure this out, because he's the one that let Jeff Hoffman walk, which I thought was a bad idea, and said it several times.
We both did.
Yes, we all said it, in fact, because he was very, very good. And I don't understand why, if they were going to go over the luxury, the threshold, why they didn't just do it.
Yeah.
I mean, just rip the Band-Aid off. Bullpen guys grow. They grow on trees, but the good ones, the dependable ones, are rare, and you have to hold them in your hand like a trapped butterfly. Never let it go.
Yeah, and I still don't trust Orion Kerkering. I know his numbers were good last year, but I just don't trust him yet. I don't trust him to be consistently good. I certainly don't trust Jose Ruiz. No one trusts Jordan Romano right now. I will ask you this. In terms of the bullpen overall, though, how worried should we be about it? I wrote a story for The Good Fight on Monday about this, and I do want to note this for everybody. In April of last year, the Phillies bullpen ERA was 5.42. It was the 3rd worst ERA in baseball, the Phillies bullpen in April of last season. In May, the bullpen's ERA was 2.13. So between the first month of the season and the second month of the season, the bullpen ERA went from 5.42 to 2.13. And they moved a bunch of guys out. Connor Brogdon was giving up a ton of runs in April of last year. You had Nick Nelson giving up a bunch of runs. Ricardo Pinto was giving up a bunch of runs at that point in the season. Yeah, there's some real names from that first month bullpen that everybody kind of forgets about. And the same thing is going to happen with this group too, I'm sure. Like Jose Ruiz may go the way of Ricardo Pinto. if things
Goodbye.
keep going this way. You might see Tanner Banks, go the way of Connor Brogdon. You know what I mean? Like, and Lehigh Valley, it's not really teaming with replacements, but there's some guys that could get a shot. They have that Japanese import, that sidearm guy, Koyo Ayowagi.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Um, yeah, he's 7 appearances, a 1.29 ERA, eight strikeouts and 5 walks. Not a great strikeout to walk ratio, but he'd
Is
be
it
different.
is it even a little bit better or reasonable than than Jose Ruiz? Then I'd say give him a try. Like at
Max
this point,
Lazar,
like if they're gonna throw Jose Ruiz out there,
yeah,
what do you do? The answer is anything.
right.
There are no wrong answers if your option is Jose Ruiz or like literally just an inning of nothing, essentially
Joe
forfeiting
Ross.
the game.
Or Joe Ross, and Joe Ross has been awful.
No,
He's
toss
been
them
awful.
both. Get rid of them. I'm ready.
Max Lazar had a disappointing spring, but he's got a 3.38 ERA with 10 strikeouts and 2 walks in 8 innings at AAA. Brett DeJuice picked up as a waiver claim from the Marlins. He's only appeared in 5 games for Lehigh Valley, but he's got 7 strikeouts and 2 walks in 6 2/3 innings. It's just not many innings, but maybe you take a roll of the dice there. The Phillies, the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs have a 30-year-old journeyman reliever named Joel Kuhnel, with a 5.86 career ERA in 82 big league games. But in the minors, he struck out 12 and walked 1 in 10 1/3 innings with a 1.74 ERA. So there's not a lot of great options. I liked John McMillan in the spring. He was a really hard-throwing guy, kind of reminded me of a Jeff Hoffman-like guy, but he's not doing well down in AAA right now. And there's a couple other guys that have, better stuff. Griff McGarry, if he can continue to do what he's doing in Reading, and maybe they move him up to AAA, maybe he can work his way into it. What they should not do, Liz, with this bullpen.
Yes.
And I have seen this online in a number of different places, so you can understand that seeing it online may tell you all you need to know about the wisdom of this idea that I'm about to share with you.
I can't wait.
This bullpen means we have to move Andrew Painter to the bullpen, Liz. Hold the phone. No. This Andrew Painter as like a true ace number 1, top of the rotation starter. We got to throw that away, because here on April 21st, the Phillies bullpen is struggling. That we can't have it. So it's got to be Andrew Painter. That's the only option. Don't you understand, Elizabeth? We don't have a choice here. You think we have a choice? We don't have a choice. This is what we have to do. We have to put Andrew Painter in the bullpen for the whole season. That's how this is going to work. He's going to be the highest of high leverage relievers. Forget about the fact he's never pitched in the bullpen before, doesn't know how to warm up as a reliever. He's coming off of Tommy John surgery, and they're trying to build up his arm as a starting pitcher because that's where his future is. No. We have a bullpen here in early to mid-April that is struggling. We got to throw it all out the window. We got to dump the whole plan. It's got to be Andrew Painter in the bullpen, Liz. That's how it has to go. Yes, the Phillies bullpen last year went from the 3rd worst to the best in the span of a month. That could never happen again. Bullpens are known for being stable. What they are in the beginning of the year is exactly what they are at the end of the year. They have to stay exactly the same.
I would rather toss myself onto a bed of sharpened sticks than talk to any of these people. Anyone than talk or communicate online or even see any one of their tweets.
It's giving me material. I'll give them that.
I mean, it is. They give us material all the time. Thank you for being actual idiots, complete morons, panicky, angry, grumpy babies.
That's
panic. Just so sad. Like, no, guys, that's not the answer. Like, you just said a bunch of names, and well, I remember maybe parts of some of them. Like, they're not all like you. None of them are like great options. I mean, What team has great options when their opening day bullpen doesn't work out? It's not like there's like a whole store of, they've got like great bullpen guys in AAA at this point. Like, this is not what any team wants. But there are a bunch of names, and any one of them could be the next Matt Strom, or take your pick. Like, any one of them could be. That's the thing. And like, the Phillies just need to find this year's Matt Strom or Ryan Kerkering, take your pick, They just need the guy who's going to do it this year, and they have to be open to finding it. And if last year was any indication, they will be.
And maybe that pitcher is pitching for another team right now.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a closer for another team right now. It could be a guy buried on the 40-man roster somewhere pitching in their AAA affiliate that is putting up better numbers or has better pure stuff than any of the guys I mentioned down in Lehigh Valley. Like, I know the Phillies have scouts out and about. I mean, it's not as many as during trade deadline season, but certainly there are people out there. I'm sure there are guys on the Phillies' radar that they could call about and see, hey, what's the price for this guy right now? We're having some issues with the bullpen. We don't need, he's not going to be our fourth or fifth best. He's not going to be our ninth inning guy or eighth inning guy, but like, we got to have somebody we can bring in the seventh inning of a game we're losing 2-0 without it blowing up in our faces.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this about the bullpen.
Please.
Jordan Romano, will he be in this bullpen by the end of the season?
No. He will be graded on top of some spaghetti.
Wow. Graded Romano.
I think they'll. I mean, I don't think they're paying him that much either.
It's $8.5 million.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly less than they're paying Max Kepler.
Right. So you don't think Romano, who this weekend against the Marlins, even in that inning that he got blown up, was getting the ball up to near 100 miles an hour. Like, the velocity issues are fixed, it seems like. They think he's tipping his pitches because he was throwing so hard and because he was throwing strikes, but they weren't getting bloops and bleeders off of him. They were roping the ball places. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for, that he was tipping his pitches, because you can fix that, hopefully, So, but I don't know. He's had the velocity's gone up and down. He seems like an accountable guy. He stands in front of the cameras after a bad game and says, listen, I got rocked and I don't really know why. We're going to look and try and figure out why I was getting rocked, because I was kind of executing the pitches that I wanted to. He kind of left some balls over the middle of the plate, though, if we're being honest. Like, I mean, I watched some of those hits in that game on Saturday. We weren't painting, okay?
No.
We were leaving some balls over the middle of the plate. That being said,
there was some throwing happening instead of pitching. It was just hurling.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I don't know either. I mean, I think they paid him. If he's not, then they will have had to have gotten replacements for him at some point this year, because they needed him.
Yeah, like if he's fixed everything, I'm just like, right now I feel very slash and burn about the bullpen, and that's not the right attitude to take. I think if Romano has fixed his issues, which we all hope he has, there's no reason he can't be here. I just, in my mind, I'm thinking, is it bullpen guy? Is his name blank? Even though it should just be Jose Ruiz, then we should get rid of him.
I think Romano will be in this bullpen by the end of the season. But
I hope so.
He may not be the high leverage. He may not be the closer guy. He may not be the number one right-handed option out of the bullpen that they were hoping for when they essentially swapped him and Jeff Hoffman. Hoffman's with his old team, and he's with Hoffman's old team. They essentially made a swap.
We cannot think of it as that. We cannot think of it as swap, because
that's
man,
what it was,
did
though,
the Phillies get the...
No, Romano's contract, certainly a 1 year, $8.5 million contract, is certainly what the Phillies were wanting more than a 3-year, $45 million that Jeff Hoffman signed with Toronto. It's big money for a reliever that I think they had injury concerns with. He failed 2 physicals with the Braves and the Orioles. I mean, that was part of the deal.
About that.
But by the way, Carlos Estevez with Kansas City, have you seen his numbers? He's got an ERA under 1. And like Hoffman, he also has 5 saves this year for a contending Royals team. So right now, again, still April 21st, the swap out's not looking great for the Phillies. But again, I point to last year's turnaround. It's very typical for a bullpen to have a bad first month and for guys to figure it out. Now, do I believe Jose Ruiz is going to figure it out? No. I think they're going to have to move on from him at some point.
Have to get rid of, load him in the trebuchet, guys, and let's strap him up.
Strap Joe Ross onto that thing. Strap Carlos Hernandez onto that thing. The guy they picked up right before this. He stinks.
Every time you say
ice.
Joe Ross, I'm just like, honestly, who?
Yeah.
How? What? Why? I'm just like, how is he on our team and not on like the Brewers? Like he just feels like
he was like a Padre, he should be a lifelong Padre, and I think he did play for the Padres at one
of
point too.
course.
Yeah. Just switching things up real quick before we get to the Atlanta stuff, just to touch on some positive stuff from especially the series against the Marlins. Bryson Stott in the leadoff spot seemed to really thrive against Miami pitching. He saw 36 pitches, I think, in Saturday's game in the leadoff spot, which is an incredible number of pitches. He looks really comfortable up there. He's seeing the ball well. And again, he hit the big 3-run home run in the 9th inning on Monday night here to get the Phillies to within 1 run. So the Bryson Stott rebound season does seem to be happening, Liz. We were hoping that some of these guys would bounce back. The Bryson Stott bounce back is happening.
Yes. I actually said this last year during last season when he was having some trouble. I said, I think whatever's happening, he just has to play it out and start over. And I said, it's depressing to say that in like July, but it's been a tough season for him. And I'm so glad that I was correct. And I'm going to revel in that because I love Bryson Stott. I love him dearly. I think he's probably my top 3 of current Phillies. I love him so much. And I'm so glad to see him doing well. He's up to 295 now, which is like, I think higher. It's the highest batting average. No, Rojas is still hitting 324.
Yeah, but he hasn't had many plate appearances.
No.
Rojas.
Stott now has the highest batting average on the team.
Is he higher than Castellanos now?
Castellanos is now hitting 289 after going 0 for 4 tonight.
Yeah, Castellanos is slumping a little bit there. That's all right. I mean, I think everybody was surprised he did not hit a home run after the death of Pope Francis. We know Nick Castellanos tends
to revel. A lot of people lost money tonight, and people lost a lot of so because of course he's not going to hit one.
Some of the sports books closed the betting at a certain point because they're like, we got to freeze this because too many people were putting money on it.
We're going to make too much money off these idiots.
Right. If you're doing that, come on, guys.
Sorry. I mean, so if you're someone who did, I apologize to you. But seriously, you wasted money, and I could have told you that before.
A fool and his money are soon parted, Liz. That's the little axiom I like to live by, especially since I don't have any. So I like to consider myself very wise in that way. I will say, Bryce Harper did not have a great game on Monday. That final at bat really infuriating. But 3 home runs in 4 days last week. His home run stroke appeared to be coming back. He just missed a couple of swings on Sunday. Monday the swings weren't so good. So what you would like to see from Harper, he has these bursts, right? These 4-game, 5-game bursts, but then it kind of fizzles out. What you'd like to see from now, I guess that's not entirely true because he won Player of the Month, I think, twice last year. So I'm going to take that back. That was just
feels like that right now because we've seen him get hot and then get cold and then get a little bit hot and get cold again. And we just don't have enough time with him this season to really get a feeling for how he's going to be. And that is something that's frustrating because we, this far in, we sort of want to get a feeling of how are you at the plate? How are you feeling? What is, what do you need to be working on? And we have a rough idea for most of the guys, but Bryce Harper, it's hard to tell,
Yeah.
He's unpredictable all the time.
He is. And I will say, with regards to the offense, I do think they are doing some things better. Now, in this game, I think they got out of their own, they kind of got themselves out again, which is what happens to them sometimes. But Trey Turner after the game said, I feel like we're doing a lot of things better. We're walking at a very high rate, and he's right about that. They are grinding out at bats a little bit more often. Again, Monday's game notwithstanding in a couple of crucial spots where they got themselves out. It says, he said, it just feels like we're not hitting enough homers or getting enough key hits, doing some positive things, but we've got to get rolling. Getting on base is something, and grinding out at bats is what we said this team needed to do, but they aren't getting the big home runs. They aren't getting the big hits with runners in scoring position. That has been the issue for them, as well as the Mets, as well as the Braves here in the early going in the National League East. And for a lot of teams across Major League Baseball, it has been a struggle offensively. So, I think we have to, again, it's early season noise. Like you said, we're entering our 4th week of the season. It's not Nobody's playing. I mean, there are very few teams playing their best baseball. If you're in the National League West, you are. Other than that, there's a lot of up and down. Couple other things. Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, both pitching the heck out of the baseball. Great start from Luzardo on Sunday. His ERA now down to 2.08. Sanchez struck out 12 batters in his last start. His ERA now 2.96.
It was a career high for him, I think.
Yes, it was. It was a career high for him, exactly. Now, all those swings and misses on the changeups. I mentioned on Friday that it was the most swings and misses on any one pitch in the StatCast era, which is just crazy. Yeah. So Christopher Sanchez, Jesus Luzardo, both pitching like aces from the left side to go along with Zach Wheeler, which kind of helps mitigate the Aaron Nola struggles a little bit here in the early going, because those guys are kind of picking up the slack a little bit. Any other things on the Phillies, Liz, that we need to talk about before we move on to Atlanta and the drama in Atlanta?
I don't think so. Happy birthday to the Fanatic. I believe the Fanatic celebrated his birthday this past weekend. Happy birthday,
47. It's 1 year younger than me, 47 years old. Yeah, I don't notice the grays on Luzardo like I know. I mean, on the Fanatic like I notice on me, but why did I say Luzardo?
We were just talking about him.
Yeah, I guess so. All right, so here's the situation in Atlanta for those of you who aren't following what's been going on.
Get ready, guys. You will be shocked to hear what's going on. You won't be.
Now, bear in mind, things like this happen when you're a good team with a losing record. But the Atlanta Braves have won 4 in a row. They're maybe starting to come on a little bit here. They're 9-13, still tied with the Nationals for last in the East, but they're starting to maybe get the things moving in the right direction. But when things are going wrong, dissension among the troops happens. On Saturday, Jared Kelenic hit a blast that he thought was going to be a home run, and he starts watching it. Does a little home run trot. Starts pimping the home run a little bit, reacting as if it was going to be over the fence, but instead it hit off the wall. And Kelenic was trying to then make up for his mistake by stretching his single into a double, which is what it should have been, a double off the wall, but he was lollygagging out of the batter's box. He gets thrown out at second base.
Idiot.
Because he wasn't hustling out of the box. After the game, reporters asked Brian Snitker, the manager, hey, did you talk to Kelenic about the fact he wasn't running hard on the hit and off the wall? And apparently Snitker replied, why should I? Ronald Acuna Jr., who is still rehabbing, by the way, and not with the team, after hearing about this comment from Brian Snitker, went on Twitter and said, if that were me, I would have been benched. Now, here is your star player on the injured list going after his own manager for how he handled the situation with Jared Kelenic. And as Ken Rosenthal from The Athletic pointed out, Acuna's right.
Yeah.
Snitker did bench Acuna in 2019 for nearly the same play. He also had benched previously Ender Inciarte in 2018 and Marcell Ozuna in 2023 for similar base running laziness or mishaps. Liz, do you want to know, can you guess what the difference is between Jared Kelenic and Brian Snitker and the 3 players that were disciplined by Snitker?
I believe 3 of them are Latino. The 3 that were disciplined were Latino, and Brian Snitker and Jared Kelenic are white.
That is correct. That is correct. As Ken Rosenthal noted in his story, all 3 of those players are Latin. Kelenic is white, as is Snitker, who is 69. And Rosenthal says, inevitably, some will view this matter solely through the lens of race. We can't know for sure how much of a role that played within the game. Snitker is held in high esteem, in part because of his feel for players, as both Acuna and Ozuna can attest. Now, I don't know why he's speaking for Acuna and Ozuna there, but I think Ken Rosenthal is saying the quiet part out loud, and good for him for doing it.
He's hedging his bets. Something
he is hedging.
There's nothing brave about that. There's nothing brave about what Rosenthal did there. For me, it's like, you say it or don't. And if you're going to say it, then you can say, I'm going to do the work and I'm going to look into it and see if there are more instances of this, and see the types of players that he usually disciplines, and the numbers will speak for themselves.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to, and I agree with everything you just said, with regard to Ken Rosenthal, but I don't want to lose the real story here, which is
Of
the
course.
Braves are collapsing in on themselves. Let's keep the true villain in our sights here. No, I mean this is what happens when when good teams are playing poorly. And Acuna is 100% right. I can totally understand his. I do think that Twitter is giving athletes like an ability to be able to respond in real time to things, which, I think
Maybe they
while I do think
shouldn't.
Acuna is 100% right with what he said, he's totally accurate. I don't know if it's the best being for, but no, you know what? He's got to call it out. He's got to call it out.
Someone's got to.
He's
That's
got to
the
call it
thing.
out.
It does. Athletes, it's a temptation for athletes to use it badly. It can and has gotten them in trouble. But in situations like this, it is important to call it out, and it's important to make sure uncomfortable conversations are had, and it's important to make sure that horrible racists get a chance to say whatever they want on social media about him. That's what this is all about.
Well, and I've always, and I'll say I don't know anything about Brian Snitker. I don't know anything about his background. I've always thought he was a decent manager. I thought he did a great job with the team last year. He's always seemed to have the team in a good mindset. And this was kind of surprising to me that this was all kind of going down with the Braves. But again, it's a good team playing very poorly, off to a bad start, and this is an awful look for Brian Snitker. Just a terrible look. It was so tone deaf to his reaction to the Kalenic incident, not understanding, hold your players to this. Like, I have no problem with benching a player for something like that. Like, if Acuna did that, if he was playing, lackadaisical and cost his team, an extra base because he wasn't hustling, and we saw, Jimmy Rollins got benched a couple of times by Charlie Manuel for doing something similar to that. But it's got to be for everybody. You got to hold everybody to the same rules, to hold everybody to the same level of accountability, and that didn't happen here.
It's Snitker's reaction. Like, there are a lot of different ways he could have reacted, but he chose, why would I do that? Is that what he said? Something like that? Why would I? And that alone is real. I think that response is what's mostly galling, about the situation, that he didn't really recognize that it's something that should be enforced and that it had been in the past. Like, a better answer would have been just hedging his bets, being like, I'm going to talk, it was an incident. He knows what he did. He doesn't feel great about it. He impacted the game. If I trust that he understands and learned the lessons, but if it's necessary, of course, I'll make sure that he understands. Like, that's all it's management 101, man. You could tell that he felt like, why would I? It feels very defensive.
It feels very defensive, and it feels very exhausted. Like, that he's been going, and the team's not been performing well, and he just doesn't want to bother with any of this other nonsense that's going on. I just, I care about winning, and so I don't know who cares about the, you know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like just brushing it off, like it's not a big deal. And listen, if you're a manager too, and you don't want to make a big deal out of those kinds of things, you don't have to. I don't know that I necessarily agree with it, but it's about consistency. And the look here with race, with Kalenic being white and Snitker being white and these three players being Latino, it certainly has all the appearances of having to do with race. And I can't get inside the mind of Brian Snitker. I can't get inside the mind of any of these different people. But the look is absolutely terrible, and you can't help but come to a conclusion, when you see it all played out and the history of all these different things. So
True.
Anyway, I just thought we'd share that little nugget as kind of up and down as things are going here with the Phils. The Atlanta Braves are, again, 1-4 in a row, but having some times down in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So would be a shame if it continued. Would be
just too bad.
Would be a real shame if it continued. All right, Liz, let's finish up with any final thoughts that you may have. Any alibis, any nuggets running around inside your head that you haven't shared with the community yet?
Not really. No, just please think about signing up for Saber, saber.org/join, I believe. Our yearly convention is in Texas this year. The Rangers are going to be our hosts. I think Fergie Jenkins is going to be there. Colby Lewis from a not too long ago Rangers team is going to be there. They're still finalizing some guests, but that is always a great time, as I've mentioned in the past. So please think about joining.
Former Philly Ferguson Jenkins,
Yes.
one of the ones that got away. One of my favorite Mike Schmidt quotes from when he was a player was like, Ferguson Jenkins always used to give him fits, and he says, "I couldn't hit Ferguson Jenkins if they gave me a Bodor up there to swing against him." Like he was really a good. He always pitched great against the Phillies to stick it up their ears. So that's one of the great things.
I hate that, but it's also like
I respect it.
I do. I respect it so much. Like you could have had me, and now I'm gonna make you pay.
Yep, that's right. I'm gonna shove it right up your ear, no doubt. Well, listen, everybody, we want to thank you for giving us another chance to take you through this this Phillies week here on the Roundtable edition of the podcast. And if you normally listen to the podcast only through Apple Podcasts or Spotify, well, now you can watch our Roundtable editions of the podcast on our YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and type in Hittin Season, and you can see all of our Roundtable shows. We also have some segments highlighted there for you as well. We got some YouTube shorts. We take little bits of the show and we put it up for you on the mobile, on the socials and stuff. So share that stuff with your friends and your family, so they know about the podcast and they can get the little nuggets and the little niblets here and there. We are winning the World Series this year. The Phillies are. So you want to get in on the ground floor now here on April 21st and be a part of this World Series winning team as we approach the 10th anniversary of this podcast coming up in June. And we do so with a partnership with WHYY for the next 2 years. It's kicking off. So lots of fun stuff planned this year as well. We are very excited about it. So even though the Phillies are up and down, this podcast is certainly not up and down. So tell your friends and family about Hittin Season. Make sure you check out my work over at The Good Fight. Check out Liz's stuff over at Saber as well. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll talk to you next time right here on Hittin Season.